with that, I am going to turn things over first to our Team NEO partners, Natasha and Kendra, which will start off with a presentation specific to the Jobs Ohio Relocation Incentive. So with that, I'll hand things over to Natasha.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, everyone, for being on the call. Thank you to GSP for hosting. And also thank you to the companies participating. And of course, our Jobs Ohio partner with Find Your Ohio, Alex Conley. So appreciate everyone gathering today. As Matt mentioned, the first portion of this will be for some, maybe a reiteration about the Jobs Ohio relocation incentive, but we really wanted to take advantage of the fact that there are platforms and resources that can help you pair with the relocation incentive. So that's why you see the tandem today. My name is Nathasha Cresap. I am the regional talent manager for Team NEO, which is the Jobs Ohio network partner that covers 14 counties in Northeast Ohio. I have the luxury of working and managing the talent acquisition incentive portfolio. And when I'm not doing that, I'm really serving as a talent concierge around our region. Um, and Kendra, my Palko, Kendra, my partner in crime, is on this call. Kendra, do you want to do a quick intro since you were so vital in getting our engagement together?
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for having us today. My name is Kendra Palko. I am Manager of Partnerships and Engagement Team NEO. In my role, I work very closely with our local economic development organizations, the economic development ecosystem as a whole, and our elected officials. So really excited to gather today and bring some resources to you guys. But I will let Natasha really take lead on this one as our talent lead.
Sounds good. Let's dive in, Patrick. I think you're navigating the slides, right? Okay. So for me, the Jobs Ohio relocation incentive, I like to think of high level, what you need to pay attention to. This slide pretty much does that for you. The relocation incentive is a total bucket across the state of $50 million dollars that allows each company that qualifies to receive $15,000 for out of state STEM talent, and that's up to 15 hires. So I like that number 15. I was born on the 15th day, so I'm sure I'm partially critical in the fact that I have to expose it. But it's really easy to think of $15,000 up to 15 hires, which is pushing $250,000 per company. But these check boxes are very important to pay attention to when you're thinking of high level requirements. The out of state hire, it must be in STEM and technical occupations, which we will see later on in the presentation. It has to be in the Jobs Ohio targeted industries because although we're coming to you now as a Jobs Ohio network partner, this is fully administered through Jobs Ohio from start to finish. However, not only has GSP been equipped to answer questions, but there's always the connectivity to us at Team NEO if you have questions or if you're finding some challenges that you want some hand holding, always happy to do that. Um, the application process can take about 20 minutes, but if you have everything in line, which is again what we're going to show you in some more slides today, it will seem very easy for you to take care of if you have documentation. This is a program that's for all sizes. So it doesn't matter if you're a very large company or if you're a smaller company or maybe you're kind of meeting in the middle. This is for companies on all sizes. It is also first come, first serve. So when I mentioned the fact that high level, there's $50 million out there in that bucket, we want to make sure that the companies that are sitting in our region are going to take the most out of that bucket. So first come, first serve. When it runs out, it runs out, but I think that's why we've had as aggressive of an approach with our partners. We also do like to mention that it is something that does require a little bit of reporting and documentation to make sure that a company has actually relocated someone to the state of Ohio. That's important. But one of the last check marks on this slide is super cool because the company can use the funds as they see fit. Sometimes we have companies that unfortunately don't have the bandwidth or capacity and maybe are hiring outside sources to help with that talent attraction. And if there are dollars that need to be funneled back into supporting what that looks like, that's okay. If it's going to be maybe a company doesn't have the most competitive wages to attract out of state talent, they could use some money to inflate what that compensation looks like or for the actual moving costs. So there's flexibility in that. And I just think this slide is one of my favorite slides that allows you to just see everything you need to know. And this slide hits a little bit more on what I just spoke to as far as those numbers when you're looking at that bold red state of Ohio. Those numbers are important to capture. Um, just a reiteration, and this slide is also part of why we're joint presenting with Find Your Ohio because we know that it complements the Jobs Ohio talent attraction efforts. So if you already know there's an incentive out there, if you know there's a platform that's going to help you within the Jobs Ohio targeted sectors and within those STEM occupations that are eligible, just putting this out there to reiterate and then also to consider some other resources and platforms. For example, if there's a destination marketing organization or a local economic development organization that is able to connect you to some of those resources to get you to your goals, we just want to make sure that this is another high level overview. This embolds the eligibility. There are a lot of things that people tend to not be comfortable with because maybe they don't work with Jobs Ohio as frequently. So they don't know what the sectors are, or they don't know what the STEM and technical employees are. This slide allows for another program overview to kind of check boxes. So when you're thinking of what employers are going to be eligible, it's really paying attention to the Jobs Ohio targeted industries. It's really paying attention to the STEM technical talent. And it's also understanding that it's all across company sizes. That's a big deal. Don't feel intimidated to apply if you think that, you're in a place where you can attract the STEM talent. Go for it. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So I encourage all companies of all sizes to go in here. Um, Also, we talked about the first come, first serve. So we want to make sure that we're eating first. And just understanding that if there are a lot of other companies that maybe are a little late to the game, um, they can do what they can. But the point is, this is still fairly early on. The program is not even a year old yet. So we're seeing a lot of companies see a resurgence as we're going into the second half of the year and understanding, hey, what are we going to do for our talent pipeline building into age? So really encouraging that. And then disbursements is not something that I've talked about yet in this presentation. Um, the disbursements, very easy. It's a very easy process as far as you're hiring. That hire has established their residency. Um, it's really just letting Jobs Ohio know and reporting that this has happened. And I will say that a big part in this, I think that stands out, is that if you are in a place now on May 27th you're finding out about Jobs Ohio relocation incentive. You apply. If you made a hire after January 1st of 2026, you are still eligible if Jobs Ohio relocation incentive is approved for you to get disbursement for that hire. So it's retro. It's for a calendar year. If you're approved, you have the ability to get disbursement for hires that qualify from January 1st to December 31st, 2026. So I think that's a big thing to kind of high level put out there for disbursement. I'm a very visual person, so I put this slide in here so we know. Okay, we know we're a sector company for Jobs Ohio. We are at a place where we know we hire engineers or welders or maintenance technicians. So submit the application online. The review and approval process is not as long as and gruesome as you would think. I would say you could see a good turnaround within 2 to 3 weeks. Just always please check your spam boxes because sometimes there's information that's coming in. And when people have come to me and said, I did everything they asked, I'm not seeing anything, we've learned that sometimes it is going to junk. So please review all of that as you're in the waiting process. There is a legal agreement that you go through simply to say that you are checking all the boxes and moving by the lay of the land in that agreement. And then from there, it's really doing what you can to attract that STEM talent and then submitting everything that you can get disbursement. It's pretty seamless. This slide is because the application is not something you can save and go back to. It's a one and done. So we like to put forth the information that's required on the application so you can have everything in hand. And that's why it makes it an easy 20-minute knockout. If there are more complications that are coming through, there is a contact email that will navigate if there are hiccups and they're paying attention to that. There's a large team on the back end that's paying attention, but these are the items that you're going to need. So before you even sit down, whether it's having a conversation with leadership, C-suite, or if it's making sure that you just have your folder ready and available for this to make it one and done. This is an important slide to just pay attention to, especially when it comes to something of understanding what the wholly owned subsidiary tax ID is, because this is based on the wholly owned subsidiary. Or I've seen recently someone wasn't sure of their NAICS code. All of those things, they could be a little cumbersome. So if this is on hand before you sit down, I think it should be helpful for whomever's applying. Baseline is another one that is a little confusing for people. The baseline, just so everyone is aware, is actually on an average of 3 years. So if a company has never done this in the last 3 years, obviously the baseline is zero. But if maybe the baseline for them is that they hired one person in 2024 and no one since, that average is going to basically come out to zero as well. So just trying to make sure that we are incentivizing companies to do this and not just paying money that are, the companies that are already doing this. So really appreciating the fact that people can go above and beyond their baseline, or if this is the first time for a company, it's important to understand that there should be rewards for the efforts and making sure that we're getting the STEM talent here in Ohio. Again, visual person. High level, these are the industries. If you fall in this industry, if your NAICS codes are in this sector, you are going to already hit a level of qualification due to this. So I just like people to see some of the sectors that Jobs Ohio covers for this incentive. Additionally, there are questions about the occupations that are covered. And I will say that if for some reason a company does not see the technical title for these priority occupations, there is an opportunity to reach out to Jobs Ohio, and if anything, they will review the job description to match it to what the occupation could land on for coverage. So, for example, if someone is they are not a general machinist, but they're doing machinist work, then Jobs Ohio will make sure that regardless of that title, if the work that's being done is covered under SOC code 514041, then that's something that's going to qualify for your disbursement. So just keep that in mind that there is flexibility. The point is to help companies here and not to ding them. So I will say, as this is my portion of being over, there are three things, excuse me, that I think are important to touch on before questions and testimonials. One, if there are multiple locations, it needs to be the parent company, and there is not going to be disbursement, unfortunately, for those that are just switching from one location to another. Has to be a brand new hire. The incentive is meant to get new out of state talent. So, unfortunately, if they're already with a company, that's not going to be the way that you can use this incentive. International students, unfortunately, don't qualify. This is for U.S. citizens and Ohio registered companies. So must be registered with the Ohio Secretary of State and must be a U.S. citizen or have a green card. Um, in addition to that, sometimes the student perspective is, well, you know, they are in Michigan as a resident, but going to Ohio State University. That does qualify because they're paying out of state tuition. And what's to say that a company won't steal them back to Michigan? We want to incentivize companies to make sure that upon graduation, they stay right here in the state of Ohio. So there is flexibility there, in addition to military. And I think this might be a good pass along for Find Your Ohio. There are a lot of our service members that are transitioning, and as they've spent maybe months or years in a different state, who's not to say that they won't stay there when their orders are completed. So even if they are a resident of Ohio, them being able to come back and actually be part of our workforce, that will qualify, as we see a lot of transitioning military members hoping to boomerang back home and be impactful, not just in the mission that they had, but in the workforce that we have here. So that's high level. Kendra, I know you have to jump in a few minutes. Did I miss anything? How did I do?
Covered everything, so nothing for me to add.
No, thank you so much, Natasha and Kendra. And again, another reminder, we'll have all this information available via recording and PDF presentation for folks after, because this is really great information. And I think the goal is, as evidenced in the slides, is yes, there's a process, but the idea was to try to simplify it as much as possible to get those people into Ohio and incentivize companies for making those hires from outside of the state. So we wanted to, now that we've transitioned from when the program first started to now, we're thrilled that there have been some local companies that have navigated the application process. So we are lucky to be joined by both Emily Messino with LogistiQ and LEWCO, and then also Kathy Kozich with the Chef's Garden, representing their companies and their sort of experience navigating the process. So with that, we'll start with Emily, if she just wanted to jump in and sort of take a few minutes to talk about their experience with navigating the relocation incentive program.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Emily Messino, Engagement and Outreach Specialist at LogistiQ. So our experience has been pretty simple. As was spoken of. I think the biggest thing for us was because our parent company is LEWCO. So making sure that we had all the information from the LEWCO side of it. And I shared that earlier. I didn't have that information, but finding just our CFO that had that information was simple. Sat down. I think there's three of us that filled out the application, and it really did not take that much time. And then once it was actually reviewed, I think Jobs Ohio did come back. They had a few questions for us just based on the application. We were able to answer those questions and really move that process around very simply. Even before we started the application, I had emailed, I think it's just JORI, email address. I'm sure it's in here, and they responded really quick to everything, just any questions that were brought up. So we were able to, we got, the grant was accepted, I think in December, and then we were able to fill out the disbursements for actually employees that we had already hired within that year. So they were were in the process of relocating, and we received 3 disbursements already. So it's been an easy program to work with, and like we were really excited to get on board with it. And I think we keep an eye on it from the LEWCO side and from the LogistiQ if we have any employees that we are trying to relocate to Ohio.
Great. Thank you so much, Emily. That's great feedback. And again, I think the whole goal originally was simplification as best as possible, while at the same time making sure those funds, from a stewardship standpoint, were still going to the appropriate uses. So that's great initial feedback for all of us that are involved in promoting the program and hopefully future users of the program. So thank you. We'll turn things over to Kathy.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Kathy Kozich with the Chef's Garden. Um, just wanted to tell you a little bit about my experience. I was in the middle of an ADP payroll and HRIS implementation, and I heard about this, and I was excited, but I was like, oh my goodness, how am I gonna do all this, you know? And I was struggling finding a lab tech for our research department, and I was introduced to the Jobs Ohio Relocation Program through the Greater Sandusky Partnership. And initially, I had a million questions. They told me all about Team NEO, which answered the questions through the presentation that you just saw from Nathasha. And I think her slides were very, very helpful in knowing what to expect. So it helped me, and it honestly was really easy. We submitted the qualification application, which, like I said, was simple. It was approved. I found the perfect candidate out of state for our lab, and the whole process was just so much easier than I had anticipated. We received the funds in early February of this year. And that 15K incentive just was really it made a really meaningful difference by helping offset that increased compensation needed to recruit and relocate our qualified candidate. And I'm excited. I'm in the process of recruiting for a maintenance person right now, so I'm hoping to use it again.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Kathy, and really for both of you being here today and just sharing some initial thoughts and feedback. We thought it would be terribly helpful to have our other local companies, hear from sort of their peer organizations, their peer companies, to be able to demonstrate that this program is able to be navigated fairly easily, and that this is real. And it is not too good to be true in terms of bringing these resources to our companies here in Erie County. So thank you both for that testimonial. That was very, very helpful. And with that, we wanted to make one last pivot, and we're happy to have Alex Conley with Find Your Ohio, which this was not part of the first webinar in the fall, but really something we wanted to do to sort of layer on sort of additional resource. We obviously have heard about the resources and the money able to attract folks. But then how do we find those folks? And how do we make those connections? So with that, I'll turn things over to Alex.
Hi, thanks, Matt. Thank you guys for having me today. I'm Alex Conley. I'm the director of Jobs Ohio's Find Your Ohio program, which is focused on national talent attraction. And I am so excited to hear that Kathy and Emily were able to successfully attract and relocate talent for their open positions. For anybody that's struggling to do so, Find Your Ohio, or just need some additional support, Find Your Ohio is definitely another resource out there. Okay, so Find Your Ohio is JobsOhio's National Talent Attraction Program. So we are focused on proactively driving in-demand talent from across the country to the state and helping match them with openings at Ohio organizations. And so this was initially set up, where we saw some areas where we were either not producing enough talent in the state, or there was just a need to go outside to get some additional resources. And so this was set up as a proactive way to drive that talent here to kind of supplement the needs we were seeing. So we are addressing talent shortages in some key areas. So we do have a focus on STEM talent. Technology is a big focus for us, as is engineering and healthcare. Those are our key industries where we're really driving talent to the state. And then I would say program management on top of all of that along those areas. Then we don't turn anyone away. So, if you could find people in our database that do not fall into one of these categories, but when we're looking at our marketing initiatives, this is really where we're focusing in. And then as a subset of that, we are also looking at boomerangs. So those with a tie to the state that have since left that we're trying to get to boomerang back, transitioning military members and veterans. There are so many employers in the state that are defense employers, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, we work with the Air Force Civilian Service, or anyone looking for cleared talent, veteran talent. That's also a big part of our efforts. And again, we don't turn anyone away. There is some Ohio talent in our database, but all of the marketing is done outside to drive that talent in. So what organizations are a good fit for Find Your Ohio? So first, you have to be open to out-of-state talent, since that is the focus of our efforts. Professional STEM roles versus skilled trade and hourly positions. Oftentimes, employers are not relocating talent for, a minimum wage job or an hourly shift job. Or not offering any incentives, although with Jory, maybe some of the companies will be offering this, but really that professional STEM roles, the mid to senior level talent is where we have a lot of success. High volume hiring versus a handful of openings. So we can certainly help employers that maybe have one or two openings. However, I would say where a lot of companies see the true value of our program is when they have a larger volume. So typically, if you have one engineer opening, let's say, you might be able to fill that with the local talent pool. Whereas if you have, 10, 15, that might be difficult. You might have exhausted your local resources, and that's where this program makes a lot of sense as well. And then a focus on engineering, healthcare, technology, or veteran and cleared talent is ideal because that is where the bulk of our talent is at the moment. And so how it works. So from a candidate standpoint, we are, marketing across the country. We are marketing what it's like to work and live in Ohio, as well as employers that participate in our program. And so we drive them to the Find Your Ohio site. They can learn more about working and living in the state. They can also learn more about our regions. Our ultimate goal is for them to submit their resume through our site. And so we ask a few questions as part of their resume submission, and a candidate profile is generated in our system. We do not ask employers to post jobs, so candidates are applying to a general application versus an employer-specific role. Our value proposition to candidates is, submit once through us, and then all of our employers have access to you in our system. And then once you're in our system, they are, contacted by our team, Find Your Ohio employers, and then we ask them regularly to update their information if they're no longer looking to deactivate themselves. So that's the candidate side. From the employer perspective, right now, the majority of the employers that we're working with enter the program through referral. So, working with our local economic development partners, our regional economic development partners like Team NEO, they will refer companies to us. We'll have an introduction call to determine fit and share more about the program. If it makes sense to move forward, you can attend one of the 2 onboardings that we have every month just to show employers how to use the back end of the system and to get their logins. And from there, employers can access candidates one of 2 ways. The first is through self-service search. Companies have access to our entire candidate database. We have over 56,000 active candidates in the system currently. You can do self-service search, find candidates. We also offer a service where you can share your hiring criteria and open roles with our team. You will be assigned a program manager, and they will proactively send you candidate recommendations based on the criteria shared. And so whether you find a candidate through your own searches or it's one that we recommend, from there, we take a step back. We're really the connectors to that talent. And then you are free to kind of move through your recruitment process, interview, screen, and hopefully hire those candidates that you find in our system. And then we ask that you meet with us, especially if you're leveraging our team for that candidate matchmaking support. We ask that you meet with us on a monthly basis and provide updates on candidate quality, number of interviews, hires, things like that. And I will say from that first introduction call to actually getting in the system, it's typically maybe 1 to 2 weeks. So we try to move very quickly so that you can access this talent fast to support your hiring needs. So the benefits. So everyone's favorite, it is a free program. There's no cost to employers. There's no cost to candidates. There's no surprise hidden, you report a hire to us and then you get a bill later. We hope you hire lots of people. The more, the better. This is a free service to you. Upon joining the platform, you'll gain immediate access to the entire candidate database. There's no gatekeeping. You'll have access to all of their information. Another benefit, with the candidate matchmaking, we really strive to serve as an extension of your team and kind of free up recruitment capacity. One benefit I like to call out is, not a lot of companies have a marketing budget set aside for recruitment marketing. And if they do, it maybe it's not a lot. And so, we are marketing in some of the most competitive markets for the most in-demand talent. So think software developers in Silicon Valley. So a lot of times employers are able to get in front of candidates that they would not otherwise have access to with their own resources. And when we look at our marketing that we're doing, we're really tailoring that based on the specific roles that our companies are looking for in those skill sets. So, companies will give us direct, I'm looking for a C++ developer or like an electrical engineer with power control systems. Those are getting fed directly into our database. And so the companies that are really successful are ones that are sharing that feedback on what they're looking for if they're finding it, so we can feed that into our digital campaigns and make sure we're driving the right types of talent. And then not only is it free, but then if you hire people from our system, we give you more free stuff. So, and I'm not even talking about the relocation incentive, which is even more, that's just free money for you. We also have placement rewards where essentially for every hire, there's different levels of marketing support. So this could be a co-branded digital campaign. This could be a LinkedIn conversation ad, different ways that we'll feature your company in our marketing to get the word out to more of our candidates and get you some more visibility. And that is the program in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. Again, I think it's clear that JobsOhio and our economic development ecosystem, I think, are really at the forefront sort of nationally and trying to find ways to not just incentivize companies to expand, but now helping on the talent acquisition side of things. which we know is such a challenge for so many of our local companies. So we're thrilled to be able to have everyone join us today and to be able to share this presentation and recording out to our group and membership base to be able to hopefully benefit from these resources. We can open it up if anyone has any questions that are participating or of each other. But again, if not, we will again be able to share this out. So I don't know if anyone had a question or anything top of mind that anyone can answer for anyone. All right, not seeing anyone rush to raise their hand. Again, I want to thank so much Alex and the Jobs Ohio team, Nathasha and her team at Team NEO, Emily, Kathy. Thank you so much for those local testimonials. Those are critical as we continue to do outreach to help our local economy and a base of businesses, and certainly to the GSP team. So. With that, I think we can close. But again, thank you all and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thanks.
Thank you.